Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jess and today we're here with another April reading wrap up and May TBR. I always get like the months a little confused. As always, I have everything written on my phone, so if I'm ever referencing down or like to my phone, that's why. I just want to make sure that I'm like actually giving you guys accurate information. I feel like I had another really good reading month. So if you guys don't already know, I do a lot of vlogs on this channel, but I also do a lot of reading. And so every month I have a reading wrap up / what I'm anticipating to read the following month. And generally speaking, I try to follow that. So if you guys want to join along in this journey with me, feel free to subscribe. And I'm here every Tuesday and Friday. Oh, please come to join us. Hello. I've just recently switched up my uploading schedule a little bit, just like moved it by a couple of days, but I am here for you guys 2 times a week. So with all of that out of the way, I want to jump in right into what it is that we read this week. Like I said earlier, I feel like I had a really good reading month and I want to share it with you guys. So first of all, I want to talk about the books that I said that I was going to read, which were Dark Matter, Air of Fire, Queen of Shadows, and Empire of Storms. I only really set aside 4 books for the month because I'm already ahead of schedule for like the amount of books that I want to read, and the last few books in the Throne of Glass series that I'm currently reading are extremely long. So I wanted to make sure that I was not like overloading myself throughout the month with like too many things to read. And it turns out I absolutely didn't. I don't know. Like I still read 5 books this month, but not quite exactly what's on my TBR. So I'm going to talk about the books that I actually read first of all, which were Dark Matter, Air of Fire, Queen of Shadows, I Who Have Never Known Men, and Magnolia Park's Into the Dark, which was my final book. And I'm gonna go in order of how I read these books just so that, I don't know, I feel like that makes the most amount of sense. The first one that I read in April, or the first one that I finished, I guess I should say, is like sort of how I tallied them on my notes app here, was Dark Matter. And basically this book is a sci-fi book. This one was for my book club, which I am wearing my book club sweater that my friend gave us. But basically what it is, I was reading like reviews and stuff like that, and everyone was saying that it was like very like mind-bending, which is why I wanted to choose it for book club. This is my book club choice and I gave it 5 stars. The book was supposed to be about the idea of like, are you happy in the current life that you have, and like if you could choose another path in your life, would you? I was obsessed with this book. I feel like I wanted to know everything that was going to happen. The chapters were quite long, but the actual like paragraphs were extremely short, and so for that reason it was still a pretty quick read overall. I feel like throughout this book you think that you have a handle on what's going on, and then all of a sudden something changes, and then it's sort of that moment of like I feel like I should have known what was happening and like what was going on, but I didn't, and I was like, oh my god, how did I not see this coming? And I feel like I also learned a lot. Like it has a lot to do with science and just like all of these different theories, and I don't want to give too much away, but overall like really definitely makes you think about different alternate paths. It's not quite like time travel, but more like the theory that at any given moment there are multiple universes that are existing simultaneous to yours, sort of like a butterfly effect. It was definitely mind-bending, definitely more so like not hard to grasp in terms of the actual like content, but more so just like taking a step back after each chapter and thinking about your life and like what would I do different, or like is that the path that I would take, or like how would I think about these things if I were in that character's shoes. And then during the actual seated book club that we had, we were just talking about would we even want to do the things that the character did. So it was very interesting. Highly recommend if you are going to do a book club, and also just overall I really enjoyed it. So I did give this one 5 stars. The next book that I finished was Air of Fire, and I gave this one 4 stars. I feel like I never quite got like the 5-star feeling in my gut. You know what I'm talking about? Like I feel like if you're a reader, you know exactly what I mean, where you just cannot put it down. You don't want to think about not reading the book. The last like 100 pages or so of this book definitely had me in a chokehold. I was only wanting to read, and like it's all I could think about. But this one was a little tough because I think there were a couple of things that were hard for me, and these are all like personal issues, I guess you could say. But one is that there was a whole new set of characters that were introduced. I knew that at some point I was going to like these characters, but I had to be convinced because I already liked the other characters that I knew. So I felt like I had to go through some of these chapters like, ugh, I don't want one of these chapters. But now I'm like so obsessed with these characters and like so excited whenever one of their chapters chapters comes along. So just seeing that progression happen so fast over the course of the last few books is very intriguing. But that was one thing. The second thing was that I had a couple of things happening. Like I had my Tough Mudder, I went to Disneyland for an entire like Friday through Sunday weekend. So I had a lot of stuff like that happening. And I feel like because of that, I wasn't doing as much reading because I was really tired or I was busy or whatever it may be. And so I kept like having to jump back in and being like, wait, what was the last thing that I read? And like what happened last? So that was, again, on me. But overall, I really enjoyed this one. I feel like the whole series so far has been a 4 or 5 star. I don't want to go too deep into what this particular book was about because I don't want to give away any spoilers. But the other thing that was a little hard on me for this one in particular, and why I think I gave it a 4 instead of a 5, was because I'm reading in the order of publication. So I read Assassin's Blade 3rd, and basically Throne of Glass and then Crown of Midnight are in chronological order, and then Assassin's Blade takes you back. And so I feel like I was jumping and then coming back. And so by that point, I kind of forgot where we were in the storyline, if that makes sense. Like I had to like regroup as to like what had happened in the book prior to it. So there's a lot of jumbled stuff in my head, but overall, I really enjoyed it. Again, I gave it 4 stars. The next one is another book club book. So this one is called I Who Have Never Known Men. It's sort of like a modern day classic, I think you can consider it. And it's only 170 pages or so, like just around that mark, but there are no chapters. So that was a little hard for me. I at first saw that it was only 170 pages and I was excited. This one is for my May book club. So I'm actually like very ahead of schedule, but I wanted to get ahead of schedule because I wanted to finish Throne of Glass with like no more interruptions. This one I gave 4 stars. I was debating between a 3 and a 4, but after I read the book, I found myself like really thinking about the characters, really thinking about the concepts of the book, and also just like going on Reddit to like see what other people had to say about the book because I haven't had my book club yet. So overall, I thought to myself that if I was doing all of that, then it's at least a 4 star, if not a 5. So I gave it 4. Basically, what this book is about is a group of 40 women who are in a underground bunker. They're guarded and they're just locked in this bunker. And it's just women, so they're not with any men except for some of the guards, but the guards don't talk to them. And one of the women was a girl, and she, at the very beginning of the book, is like 14 or 15. And so she has never really met a man before. And so she goes through a lot of thoughts during the whole book. Again, there's no chapters. It's a little bit dense. So again, it scared me a little bit, but there are parts where you can pause, or if you wanted to just go and like sit down for 170 pages and read the whole thing, you absolutely could. It would be a pretty quick read. I'm a slow reader, and I want to say it took me like 4 hours or so. But overall, I found this one really interesting because I feel like it really made me think about like human nature and like what do humans actually need, and like what are the bare minimum things that we need in our lives, and like what are the things that we will always seek out, like those types of ideas. And for that reason, it was so different from Dark Matter, but in a way like so like thought-provoking as well. So I really enjoyed it a lot. I was very shocked by this one. I thought it was going to be so different, but I really liked it. So 4 stars for sure. I feel like this one was just so much more philosophical than what I was expecting. So really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be a thriller, and that keeps happening to me with these book club books where I like think that something's going to be a thriller and then it's not. Overall though, so far I've been really liking these book club books in comparison to that first one. So that's the good news. The next one that I read was Queen of Shadows, and I gave Queen of Shadows a 5 star. I feel like this one was between a 4 and a 5, but so far I think it's been one of my favorites. I think Throne of Glass and Assassin's Blade have truly been my favorites, but I feel like Queen of Shadows, just so much happened throughout the book and like so much character progression was there. This is also when those characters that I was mentioning that I got introduced in Air of Fire, I really took to them and like really started to see character development within them as well. And so I just like really, that's where my soft spot for them came in. So I feel like because of all of those things, it still didn't quite give me that 5-star feeling, but I really think that it deserves 5 stars. I'm not one to give like 4.5 or 4.75 or anything like that, but if I were, I'd probably give it a 4.5 because it's fantastic. But I kind of went from why should I care about these people to like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking about these people in this book. So that's why I wanted to give it 5 stars. Again, I don't want to go too in depth about what this actual book was about, unfortunately, because I don't want to give any spoilers away. But I think that this series has been doing a decent job of like changing up the pace. I think any genre can have very similar trends. Like in a romance novel, you have people are single and then they find each other and then they slowly get together and then they're finally together and then there's a breakup and then they get back together. And like traditionally that's how it is. And fantasy novels have a very similar idea of like something is happening, that small thing is conquered, and then something big happens like a war, and then the character almost doesn't make it and then they make it and then like woo, they save the world. And like generally speaking, it like goes in this trend. I felt like with, for example, the ACOTAR series, that trend happened over and over and over again in the same way. And so I kind of felt like I kept reading the same story, which is why I had to take a break from that series. But with this series, even though it's the same author, I feel like there's enough variation where even though if you like really stripped it away, you probably could still see those same trends. But I feel like I've been so much more captured. And again, like the character development is so on point. I think it helps that this one is a YA novel. And so because of that, it's not smutty. There's still romance in it, but it's like very much a subplot and you're focused on the actual world building. And so I think I've been really enjoying that. I think I've been really liking that more like YA style. And that doesn't mean that there's not love in the story. So overall, I've been really loving it. I'm so excited to read the next few books in the series because I only have 3 left, which is so crazy. So that's that. And then the last one was an audiobook technically, but I read Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. I gave this one 3 stars, and I feel like this is such an unpopular opinion. Here is my thoughts on the whole Magnolia Park series, first of all. I read the first Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates. And then from there, I just like wanted to know what the hype was about. So that's why I read them. I decided I didn't really like them. I felt like they were fine. Like basically you're just told that these characters are supposed to love each other. And so you're supposed to be in love with them being together. But I just didn't like the characters. And so I was like, meh. You know, whatever. Then I discovered that I could get them as an audiobook, and so I decided I was intrigued enough to know more about the story. I do like the actual characters. I just don't really like their story. I don't even know if that makes sense, but I liked it enough and like was intrigued enough that I figured while I'm driving, while I'm doing my workouts, like whatever it is, I can listen to it on an audiobook. I definitely retain a lot less when I'm listening to audiobooks, generally speaking, because a good chunk of the time I am just like sitting there driving, listening, running, listening, like actually focused on the listening. But there are also times where I am doing other things and then I get distracted and I'm like, oh my God, what happened in that chapter? And then I have to rewind and it's a whole thing. So generally speaking, I'm still very focused, but that's where I'm at with that. I feel like this one was just so long. It was 750 pages, which equated to 22 hours of an audiobook, which was so not necessary. Didn't need to be that long. And I also feel like it was just the world's longest epilogue. Like this absolutely did not need to be a book at all, nor did it need to be a long book. I feel like I did want the wrap up for the characters, but I just feel like nothing really happened in this book that was like that big. And so I just felt like, I don't know, like I feel like if I was actually physically reading this book, I would not have stuck along for as long as I did. The like only saving grace was the fact that it was an audiobook and I just like was passively listening to it while doing other things. So I gave it 3 stars. I heard that there's going to actually be 7 books in the series instead of 6. The last 2 are both from the point of view of Daisy Hates, which I tend to lean toward the Daisy Hates books. Like I really like that character. I really like her story and just like everything that she's gone through. I feel like she's actually gone through struggles, whereas like Magnolia Parks is, I mean, she's gone through struggles too, don't get me wrong, but she's like a rich girl who has struggles with her love, not real life struggles. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's sort of where I'm at with that. I do have the sense though of like when you finish a series and your characters are gone and it's almost like they've fallen asleep, but like forever. That's sort of how I feel. And it does make me a little bit sad. Like the book was not terrible. Don't get me wrong. I'm still giving it 3 stars. I feel like I'm kind of like talking bad about it, but it was not that terrible. Like the actual writing was beautiful. I really like the way that the author story tells and the whole thing, but it just felt like it didn't need to be that long. I am sad to like lose these characters and not have any more of their story. I feel like they really hold a special place in my heart. And when you listen to the audiobook, it it reads out the final like ending thank yous essentially. And the author like wrote a thank you to the characters for letting her tell their story, things like that just like really pulled at my heartstrings a bit, because I was like actually really sad to lose these characters in my life as well. So I think I really like the characters, but I just feel like the story was just too long, so it was a 3-star for me. So those were the 5 books that I read. I'm going to now go through the books that I want to read in May. So for my May TBR, we're going to try to go for Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn, and Kingdom of Ash, which are the last 3 books that I have in my series. I am going on to vacation, so I'm trying to keep it lean because I know myself, and whenever you go on vacation, you just don't read as much as you think you're going to. So I'm really hoping that I can read a good chunk, but we'll see. I basically just want to focus on finishing the Throne of Glass series this month. Whoa. My light just turned on. I think that because I already finished my May book club book, I can like actually focus in. So I feel confident, although the last few books are very long. I think the last one is like 2 pages away from being 1,000 pages. So it's gonna be a lot, but I'm excited to like see where we go next. I've decided that I'm not doing the tandem read, which kind of terrifies me, but that's what the author suggests. So we're gonna just go for it. I don't think I've really seen people talk about not doing the tandem read as like YouTube videos, so I will definitely be keeping you guys updated, because everything on Reddit is saying to not do the tandem read, but everything on YouTube is about the tandem read, so we'll find out together. But that is really all I have for you guys today, so I appreciate you guys so much. I am so grateful to get to chat with you guys about books, and like I'm so glad that I have found this passion of mine, because I have been obsessed with reading lately especially, but just like over the last few years, and I am so happy to like have found reading again. I feel like for so many years of my life, I just stopped reading, and I don't know like what happened, but like around 2021, I started reading again. And then last year I got like deep into a reading hole, and now we're here, and it just like makes me so excited to have these worlds that I get to get into. And if we get through a good chunk of these books, I'm hoping to also maybe read an Emily Henry book, because she just came out with her new one. So we'll see. I don't want to officially put it on my TBR because I know these other books are very long, but we're going to find out. Anyway, before I continue rambling on, I'm going to end the video here. So thank you guys so much as always for watching. And if there's any books that you recommend, feel free to leave them below. I always like to hear you guys' recommendations on anything and everything. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.